Welcome to my channel. Value Quarter Dollar. The 1971 United States half dollar is a historically significant coin that marked the beginning of a new era in American coinage, as it was the first half dollar issued after the transition away from silver in circulating coins. Officially known as the Kennedy half dollar, it continues the series first introduced in 1964 to honor the late President John F. Kennedy following his assassination. By 1971, the coin was no longer struck in 40% silver, as it had been from 1965 to 1970, but instead in a copper-nickel clad composition, reflecting broader economic changes and the rising cost of precious metals. The obverse front of the coin features a left-facing portrait of Kennedy, designed by Gilroy Roberts, with the word Liberty inscribed prominently along the top edge, the phrase, "In God We Trust," split on either side of the neck truncation, and the year 1971 centered at the bottom. The motto, "In God We Trust," which became standard on U.S. coinage in the 20th century, reflects the country's historical emphasis on faith and national identity, especially during periods like the Cold War. On the reverse back, designed by Frank Gasparro, the coin displays a heraldic eagle adapted from the presidential seal, with a shield on its chest, an olive branch in one talon symbolizing peace, and arrows in the other representing readiness for defense. Above the eagle is a ring of stars, and the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, out of many one, appears across a banner, emphasizing unity among the states. The inscription, United States of America, curves along the top edge, while half dollar is inscribed along the bottom. Although millions of these coins were minted at facilities like the United States Mint in Philadelphia, No Mint Mark, and Denver, D Mint Mark, they saw limited circulation because Americans increasingly favored paper currency and smaller denominations. As a result, many 1971 half dollars were hoarded or kept as collectibles rather than used in everyday transactions. Today, while the coin generally holds modest monetary value unless in uncirculated or proof condition, it remains an important piece of numismatic history, representing the intersection of artistry, politics, and economic change in the United States during the early 1970s. The next top. The 1972 United States half dollar is part of the long-running Kennedy half dollar, a coin first issued in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination. By 1972, the coin had already undergone important changes in composition and circulation patterns. Unlike the earlier 1964 version, which contained 90% silver, and the 1965 to 1970 versions with reduced silver content, the 1972 half dollar was struck in a copper-nickel clad composition, meaning it had no intrinsic silver value for regular circulation coins. The coin was minted at two primary facilities, Philadelphia Mint, No Mint Mark, and Denver Mint, marked with a small d on the obverse. Proof versions were also produced at the San Francisco Mint, typically bearing an S Mint mark and featuring a mirror-like finish intended for collectors. On the obverse front of the 1972 half dollar, the left-facing portrait of John F. Kennedy dominates the design. This portrait was created by Gilroy Roberts, who served as chief engraver of the United States Mint. Kennedy's profile is surrounded by inscriptions that carry deep national meaning. The word Liberty arcs across the top edge, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," is split across two lines beneath the chin. This phrase, officially adopted as a national motto in 1956, reflects the historical and cultural emphasis on faith in American public life. The year, 1972, appears at the bottom, indicating the coin's date of minting. If present, the mint mark, such as D, is located just below Kennedy's neck truncation. The obverse design is notable for its clean, dignified appearance, capturing both realism and symbolic reverence for a fallen leader. The reverse back of the coin features a heraldic eagle design adapted from the presidential seal of the United States. This design was prepared by Frank Gasparro, who succeeded Roberts as chief engraver. The eagle is shown with wings spread, clutching an olive branch in one talon and a bundle of arrows in the other, symbolizing the nation's desire for peace but readiness for defense. Above the eagle's head is a cluster of stars surrounded by rays, representing the states united under a common government. Encircling the design are the inscriptions United States of America and half dollar. Prominently included is the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, a phrase that expresses the unity of the original 13 colonies into a single nation and continues to symbolize the diversity and unity of the United States. The lettering and arrangement emphasize balance and national identity, making the reverse both symbolic and visually striking. The 1972 half dollar is physically composed of 3 layers, an inner core of pure copper sandwiched between outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. This gives the coin a distinctive appearance, with a silvery surface but a visible copper-colored edge when viewed from the side. It has a diameter of 30.6 millimeters and weighs approximately 11.34 grams. The edge is reeded, grooved, which historically served to prevent the shaving of precious metal from coins, though by 1972 this was more a continuation of tradition than a necessity. Despite its practical design, the half dollar was already declining in everyday use during the early 1970s, as smaller denominations like quarters and dimes became more convenient for daily transactions. From a historical perspective, the 1972 Kennedy half dollar reflects a transitional era in U.S. coinage. The removal of silver content was part of a broader response to rising silver prices and hoarding in the 1960s. By 1972, half dollars were still being produced for circulation, but they were not widely used in commerce, often ending up in bank vaults or collectors' hands. Many Americans saved Kennedy half dollars as keepsakes, either out of respect for President Kennedy or because of the coin's distinctive size and design. As a result, large quantities of these coins remain in relatively good condition today. In terms of value, a 1972 half dollar is generally worth its face value, 50 cents, if it is in circulated condition. However, uncirculated coins, those that have not been used in everyday transactions, can be worth slightly more to collectors, especially if they retain their original mint luster. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint are typically more valuable due to their limited production and higher quality finish. Coins with errors, such as striking anomalies or unusual features, may also carry a premium in the numismatic market. Nevertheless, because of the high mintage numbers, the 1972 half dollar is considered a common coin rather than a rare one. Culturally and symbolically, the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "E Pluribus Unum" represent 2 foundational ideas in American identity: faith and unity. These phrases appear on many U.S. coins and serve as reminders of the nation's historical values and philosophical roots. The Kennedy half dollar, combining these mottos with the image of a beloved president and the national eagle, stands as a compact piece of American history. Even decades after its release, the 1972 half dollar continues to be collected, studied, and appreciated, not only for its monetary role, but also for its artistic design and historical significance. The next top. The 1973 United States half dollar is part of the long-running Kennedy half dollar series, which was first introduced in 1964 to honor the late President John F. Kennedy after his assassination. Minted at the United States Mint facility in Denver, hence the D Mint mark, the 1973 D half dollar is composed of a copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, a change that began in 1971 after rising silver prices eliminated silver from circulating half dollars. The obverse front of the coin features a left-facing portrait of Kennedy designed by Gilroy Roberts, along with the inscriptions Liberty around the top edge, the year 1973 at the bottom, and the national motto, "In God We Trust," split on either side of the neck truncation. The reverse back, designed by Frank Gasparo, displays a heraldic eagle based on the presidential seal, clutching an olive branch and arrows, symbolizing peace and strength, with a shield covering its chest. Above the eagle appears the Latin motto, "E Pluribus Unum," meaning "out of many one," reflecting the unity of the states, while United States of America arcs along the top and half dollar is inscribed at the bottom. Surrounding the eagle are 50 stars representing the states of the Union. Interestingly, although millions of 1973 D half dollars were minted, over 83 million, they were not widely circulated because half dollars had largely fallen out of everyday use by the early 1970s. Instead, many were held in bank vaults or collected directly by the public. This coin holds particular appeal for collectors because 1973 was one of the years when half dollars were primarily issued in mint sets rather than for general circulation, making high-grade examples more accessible but still desirable in pristine condition. In terms of value, a typical circulated 1973 D half-dollar is generally worth only slightly above face value, but uncirculated specimens, especially those graded MS-65 or higher, can carry a premium among numismatists. The coin has a diameter of 30.6 millimeters, weighs 11.34 grams, and has a reeded edge, standard for modern U.S. coinage. Its historical context reflects a transitional period in American coinage, when silver was being phased out and public coin usage habits were shifting. Despite its relatively modest market value, the 1973 D. Kennedy half-dollar remains an important piece of American numismatic history, symbolizing both a tribute to a beloved and the evolving economic realities of coin production in the United States. The next top. The 1978 United States half-dollar is part of the long-running Kennedy half-dollar, a coin series first introduced in 1964 to honor John F. Kennedy after his assassination in 1963. By 1978, the coin had already transitioned away from its earlier silver content and was struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition, consisting of a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper and nickel. This change, which began in 1971, reflected broader economic adjustments in U.S. coinage as the rising price of silver made it impractical for circulation coins. The 1978 half-dollar was produced at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia, No Mint Mark, and Denver, D. Mint Mark, with millions of coins struck primarily for collectors rather than everyday circulation, as half-dollars had largely fallen out of common use by the late 20th century. On the obverse front of the coin is a left-facing portrait of President Kennedy, designed by sculptor Gilroy Roberts, who served as chief engraver of the mint. The portrait is based on an official presidential medal and conveys a dignified, idealized image of Kennedy. Above his head appears the word liberty, while the phrase "In God We Trust" is inscribed below his chin and above the date, 1978. This motto, which became standard on U.S. coins during the 20th century, reflects a long-standing national sentiment and was officially mandated on all U.S. currency by federal law in 1955. The lettering style and placement on the 1978 half-dollar are clean and balanced, contributing to the coin's aesthetic harmony. The obverse also includes subtle details such as Kennedy's hair texture and facial contours, which are often appreciated by collectors for their craftsmanship despite being mass-produced. The reverse back of the 1978 half-dollar features a heraldic eagle design created by Frank Gasparro, another influential figure in American coin design. Gasparro's design is adapted from the presidential seal and presents a powerful eagle with wings spread wide, clutching an olive branch in its right talon and a bundle of arrows in its left, symbolizing the nation's desire for peace but readiness for defense. Above the eagle's head is a cluster of stars surrounded by rays, representing the original states and the guiding principles of the nation. Encircling the top edge of the coin is the inscription, United States of America, while along the bottom is the denomination half-dollar. Just above the eagle is the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, which expresses the unity of the states forming a single nation. This motto has appeared on U.S. coinage since the late 18th century and remains a key symbolic element of American identity. In terms of physical specifications, the 1978 half-dollar has a diameter of 30.6 millimeters and a weight of approximately 11.34 grams. The edge is reeded grooved, a feature originally intended to prevent the shaving of precious metal from coins when they were made of silver or gold. Although the 1978 version no longer contains silver, the reeded edge remains as a traditional design element. The coin's metallic composition gives it a distinctive appearance, with a silvery outer surface but a visible copper stripe along the edge when viewed from the side. This visual characteristic distinguishes clad coins from their earlier silver counterparts and is a quick way for collectors to identify post-1970 issues. The historical context of the 1978 half-dollar is also important. By the late 1970s, half-dollars were no longer widely used in everyday transactions in the United States. Instead, they were often saved as keepsakes, collected in rolls, or distributed in mint sets. The popularity of the Kennedy half-dollar as a collectible item was driven both by the enduring legacy of President Kennedy and by the coin's attractive design. Many people in the 1960s initially hoarded these coins as mementos, especially the earlier silver versions, which further reduced their circulation. By 1978, production levels were aligned more with collector demand than with commercial necessity. From a numismatic perspective, the value of a 1978 half-dollar depends largely on its condition and mint mark. Coins in circulated condition are typically worth only their face value, while uncirculated examples, or those with special characteristics, such as strong strikes, minimal marks, or inclusion in original mint sets, may command a modest premium among collectors. Unlike earlier issues from the 1960s, the 1978 half-dollar does not derive intrinsic value from precious metal content, so its worth is primarily based on collector interest rather than bullion value. In summary, the 1978 United States half-dollar is a representative example of modern American coinage, combining historical symbolism, artistic design, and practical considerations of its era. Its inscriptions, Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, reflect key elements of American identity, while its imagery honors a significant national figure and embodies the principles of unity and strength. Although it may not be rare or highly valuable, the coin remains an important piece of numismatic history and a tangible connection to the cultural and political legacy of the United States in the late 20th century. The next top. The 1992 P United States half-dollar is part of the long-running Kennedy half-dollar series, which was first introduced in 1964 to honor the late President John F. Kennedy following his assassination in 1963. By 1992, the coin had already undergone several changes in composition and circulation habits, and it was no longer commonly used in everyday transactions, instead becoming more of a collector's item. The P mint mark on the 1992 coin indicates that it was struck at the United States Mint facility in Philadelphia, which historically did not use mint marks until 1980. Thus, the presence of the P is itself a modern identifier of its origin. The obverse front of the coin features a left-facing portrait of President Kennedy designed by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts, capturing a dignified and idealized image of the president. Surrounding this portrait are the inscriptions Liberty across the top, the date 1992 at the bottom, and the national motto, In God We Trust, split on either side of Kennedy's neck. This motto has been a standard feature on U.S. coinage since the 19th century and reflects the country's historical inclination to acknowledge faith in its national identity. The reverse back of the coin, designed by Frank Gasparo, displays a heraldic eagle based on the Great Seal of the United States. The eagle holds an olive branch in one talon and a bundle of arrows in the other, symbolizing peace and military readiness, respectively. Above the eagle is a cluster of stars, while a banner in its beak bears the Latin phrase, E Pluribus Unum, meaning out of many one, which signifies the union of the original states into a single nation. Around the rim of the reverse are the inscriptions United States of America and half-dollar. The composition of the 1992 P half-dollar is a copper-nickel clad, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin durability and a silver-like appearance without containing actual silver, unlike earlier versions minted before 1971. The coin weighs approximately 11.34 grams and has a diameter of 30.6 millimeters, with a reeded edge. In terms of mintage, millions of these coins were produced for circulation, but due to declining use of half-dollars in commerce, many remained in bank vaults or were saved by collectors. As a result, circulated examples are still relatively common and typically hold only face value unless they are in uncirculated or mint-state condition, in which case they may carry a modest premium among numismatists. Proof versions of the 1992 half-dollar were also struck, but those bear an S mint mark from San Francisco and feature a mirror-like finish intended for collectors. The 1992 P coin does not contain any rare varieties widely recognized in the hobby, but its value can vary depending on condition, luster, and grading. Overall, the 1992 P Kennedy half-dollar serves as both a tribute to a significant historical figure and a representation of late 20th century U.S. coinage, carrying traditional American mottos like In God We Trust and E Pluribus Unum, along with symbolic imagery that reflects the nation's ideals of unity, strength, and resilience.